can I just say one thing firstly? I love the name Eat Sleep Boxing Repeat.
Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted as always to be joined by Thomas Cathy. This is a video about Gervonta Davis, the rumours about Gervonta Davis retiring from the sport of boxing, and what is kind of potentially left for him in the boxing world. Thomas, we're recording this Wednesday evening, my time, Wednesday afternoon, your time. It's an ongoing story, as well as Gervonta Davis obviously has his legal problems as well, which are uncertain of the outcome of. So in terms of this story could change in the next 24 hours or so. But want to ask you is what are your thoughts on Gervonta Davis retiring, potentially never boxing again?
Honestly, I don't like the idea, but I mean, he should be able to do whatever he wants to do. But I think he has a lot left, although it doesn't really surprise me that he is retiring because if you just remember back to his attitude before the Lamont Roach fight, going into that fight, he was already talking about retiring. So, as they say, once you start talking about retiring, you're already kind of retired, right? And I think that's perhaps the case for Davis. And I know, that article with Tim Bradley talking about how he's really just, looking to get one big payday with Jake Paul and then get out. Honestly, I know Tim Bradley can kind of be uh, a little hyperbolic at times, a little, he can exaggerate, but at the same time, I mean, it's really hard to argue with him in this one, especially when, after the Roach fight, um, Davis is up there on the podium at the press conference, and they ask him, "Who were you going to call out?" And he was like, "Well, he was in the locker room with me," and of course, that was Jake Paul. So, everything kind of checks out there. It looks like he was probably looking to get that Jake Paul fight and then just leave the game. And and the fact that the rematch is taking so long between him and Roach to materialize as well, I think is another sign that perhaps Davis isn't ready to return to the ring.
Yeah, look, I think it's a kind of a complex. There's a lot of things going on, aren't there? And Gervonta Davis, he's made comments about retiring in the past, of retiring early, doesn't kind of want to be in this sport at the age of kind of 34, 35. He's achieved a lot. He's made a lot of money. And I think maybe the desire to box isn't quite there. And if that's the case, he probably should retire. But I do want to get your opinion on a couple of things, Thomas, because I feel like in boxing, you can say you're retired and people still box. You have people coming out of retirement all the time, and especially when someone retires young, there's kind of always going to be invitations for somebody to come back, especially when you have a name like Gervonta Davis. On the Jake Paul thing, because like Jake Paul, he's been linked with fighting Canelo. That fight looked like it was quite close. As things stand, he could fight Anthony Joshua in the next few months. Um, can you see that fight happening? Because personally, I think that sooner or later, one of these top pros are not going to be able to say no to the money, and the fight is going to happen. I just think if you're Joshua or Canelo, you maybe want that fight to be at the end of your career when you're past your best and it's maybe one final payday in the same way Floyd Mayweather kind of fought Conor McGregor right towards at the end of his career, and it was kind of one of his final big paydays. Can you see that happening? Obviously, there's an issue with the weight, of course, but like, is that one? Do you think Gervonta Davis will be tempted enough to, whether it's to come back from retirement or not, but to kind of to fight Jake Paul?
Well, it seemed like he was certainly interested in it before the Lamont Roach fight, because he said he was going to call him out. But yeah, the weight for me is just hard to overlook. Like, it's not right at all. I don't know how, at least, Jake Paul's other matchups, the guys he was fighting were somewhere in the like weight neighborhood, of Jake Paul, and that wouldn't be the case here. So, yeah, it's just a random. Yeah, that's just it doesn't really make sense to me. And I'm sure Gervonta would be interested in it for the money, but I think what you said is right. I think it's just only a matter of time. I think Jake Paul is honestly kind of in a similar situation himself, where he's trying to get, I think, one of those top guys to fight him and get a huge payday, and then I think he's going to be done with boxing because whoever he fights is probably going to do a number on him. So, anyways, I yeah, I was surprised when that when that whole thing came about Gervonta potentially calling out Jake Paul. It just doesn't seem right, just because of the weight, really.
Yeah, look, we'll see what happens. I think with Jake Paul, like, look, another next week he could be calling out Deontay Wilder or kind of Beterbiev. You don't know with him, but as things stand, none of these fights have actually been made official or happened. So it's one of those where you kind of got to believe that this Jake Paul versus John Davis or Anthony Joshua is actually going to happen when it's officially announced. In terms of kind of other options for Gervonta Davis, Thomas, me and you have spoken about the Shakur Stevenson fight in the past. Hand on heart, can you ever see that fight happening? Because there's maybe now people saying that Shakur Stevenson would beat Gervonta Davis. Gervonta Davis obviously still undefeated as a pro. Um, can you ever see it happening? Because it feels like it's gone quite quiet.
No, you're right. It doesn't seem likely, but I'm going to try to remain optimistic. I think that Gervonta still has a lot left, and I know he's saying he's retired, and he's talked about retiring, and maybe he does, or maybe he doesn't really want to fight anymore. But I think either way, we're going to see him at least a handful more times in the ring, and I mean that Shakur Stevenson fight would make him a bunch of money as well. So um, I'm I'm going to try to be optimistic on this one. I think it does happen at some point.
Yeah, and look, that fight would be. There's not many fights that would happen in recent years between two Americans that would be bigger than that one. And I just think, in my opinion, America, look, you're better placed about this than I am, but I just feel like there's a lack of kind of super fights being spoken about to take place in America at the moment. There's big fights, but I'm talking kind of, Gervonta Davis, Ryan Garcia, that level of fight that's got kind of the boxing world buzzing about it. It feels like those sort of fights in the last couple of years haven't happened too much. Obviously, there's the involvement of the Saudis. There's maybe kind of fights that can't get made for whatever reason, but it would be great. I would love it if that were to happen. Final question from me, Thomas. What do you think is going to happen here? I know we're not inside the mind of Gervonta Davis, but the reports at the moment on the 30th of July are kind of suggesting he is retired, but that might not necessarily mean that he never fights again. What is your kind of gut feeling? Will we see Gervonta Davis in the ring again? And if we do, against who will it be against?
I think we will, and I think it will probably be Lamont Roach again. And I think if anything though, it probably just won't happen this year. Gervonta Davis has seemingly been on a one fight per year schedule, and I was shocked that they were even going to try to make this one for August or the summer, like they were going to. But of course, now he has this, legal situation he has to take care of. So obviously, that's probably going to put a delay in setting up the rematch. So yeah, I would expect if it does happen, and I think it will. I think it probably happens in the first quarter of next year.
All right, we'll leave it there. We'll leave it there. As I said at the start of the video, this is an ongoing situation. And we'll see how it develops over the next few days. Thomas, good to be joined by you. Always, I'll speak to you again very soon.
Likewise, thank you.